This is my heater. I dare you to hit it.
He'll be sorry.
You want the heater? I'll give it to you.
Basketball, maybe they don't hit it.
A swing and a drive to deep right.
Clear the deck. Cannonball coming.
Left field. It is out of here.
What up? What's good? Baseball Unstitched. We're back. Evan and Ryan always here to talk about baseball. Lot happened this week. Evan was just tweeting about it, in fact. But we got to start where we always start. Flax, how was the weekend?
The weekend was good. As we say, the baseball gods giveth, and the baseball gods taketh away. And this weekend, they giveth. We got, not only did we get 2 rounds of golf in, which was phenomenal, but we won our men's league game. I started on the mound. I don't like to brag. Not bragging here, just stating a fact. Went 7 innings strong, 8 Ks. Felt good when I did it. Not as much today. Body hurts. This is 30. But we're here. It was good. Weekend was good.
We're teaching Flax about recovery routines. He's been giving me a hard time about an arm icer. He's learning very quickly.
I did some recovery today. I did some mobility. I did some working out. Get the lactic acid going. I'll run tomorrow. We'll work out some of that second day soreness.
And one day, after months and months of asking, he will buy an arm icer. But until that day...
I've got 2 weeks until my next start.
Until that day. We got a good one for you guys today. First and foremost, very, very excited. We have University of Hawaii pitching coach Keith Zuniga on for an interview. What a wonderful person, coach, and just overall human being. So get excited for that. You're going to learn a lot about Rainbow Warriors baseball. And, you know, playing in paradise... It's not all fun and games. They're there to win, and him and the entire coaching staff, they're rocking and rolling. So we're excited to share that with you guys. We got some short topics to start with, and then we're going to finish with talking about a guy who probably should be in the Hall of Fame, but we'll let you make that decision once you hear our argument. So let's start it out, and I guess I'll get to go first on opening thoughts.
Yeah,
today.
I want to hear your thoughts. I know you have some thoughts on this topic, so I want to hear them.
We talked about it on the live show yesterday, and for any of you who tuned in, you already got to hear a little bit of the soapbox. But David Martinez had a really, really interesting post-game interview a couple nights back, and he was talking about the fact that everything going on in D.C. right now is on the players over the coaching staff. And let me be clear, I don't think Martinez meant to say it that way. I'm not here to pile on Davey and act like he's this unaccountable, selfish person, because I've seen what he's done in D.C. He's done a lot of great things for us. But when you make a statement of it's never on the coaches and it's never on the coaching staff and they work their butt off every day and they work hard every day and no player would ever say it's the coaches, this, that, and the other, that's a tough one for me, especially as the head coach of a major league roster. Because at the end of the day, production levels on the field are not something that the coach controls from a standpoint of going out there and swinging the bat himself. However, he's accountable for the success of the team to a point. He's in the dugout every day. So is his coaching staff. And I love the fact that he wants to defend his coaches. But in my opinion, the way he did it was just incorrect. You have to be able as a coach to be accountable for your role in these scenarios. And I equate everything back to real life. I work my butt off every day in my job. In fact, Flax tells me every day that sometimes I'm working too hard. But guess what? If I'm not producing, no one cares how much effort that I'm putting in at the end of the day. Production and results is all we care about in general. The age-old joke is we're here to provide value to the shareholders, right? Well, the shareholders in this scenario for Davey Martinez are management, and at the end of the day, though we don't dictate anything, the fans. And I just really, really struggle with what I felt was lack of accountability with a roster that is so young. We're not talking about a veteran roster who's been around the league. We're talking about one of the youngest average age rosters in all of baseball, and your head coach not taking some accountability, I feel as if it's probably a pretty negative thing. So I was frustrated. It is what it is.
It felt like there was an air of like saying to his younger players like, hey, welcome to the big leagues. And the league does that plenty for these guys.
Oh, yeah.
it's not on you as the manager and the coaching staff and the other players on the team to give your young players their welcome to the big leagues moment. That's for opposing pitchers, opposing players, opposing coaches to give those guys.
Dude,
for
we're in the
umpires,
NL East.
unfortunately.
Like,
Right.
It'll happen.
That was what it was for me, is like, if Davey's a part of a really veteran ball club, like if Snit had said something like that as a part of the Braves and sat there and said, the coaching staff's doing all we can, the guys just got to play a little better. Those guys, that's a lot of those guys that have won a World Series, that are more veteran. They take that ownership themselves. They hear it from him in a different way. When Davey says it, his guys sit there and say, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. Or, oh, I gotta do X, Y, Z. And it makes it really difficult to keep progressing because you don't feel the freedom of failure. The freedom of failure is a beautiful thing in baseball because failure happens a lot. And not giving your young guys that leash to have that comfortability because you want to win so bad and because you now feel the pressures of your own job, which very clearly it seems like Davey does, it just changes the way those words come out. So,
yeah, and the biggest thing at the end of the day, I'm not here to lambaste Davey Martinez, regardless of how I felt the last couple of years have gone. It is a very poorly worded answer. And now here's the catch. When you speak in these scenarios, no matter how poorly or positively worded that answer is, the repercussions are going to be what the repercussions are. I appreciate him trying to stick his neck out for his people because as the manager, to me, over everything, he was really trying to stick up for Coles and some of the rest of that staff. But at the end of the day, going as far as to say nobody in the league is going to blame the coaches for a situation, that was tough, right? And
then to double and triple down on it.
That's where it is. And a lot of times when people double and triple down on things like that, they know they've said something wrong.
Right.
And it is what it is. I'm going to leave it alone. We're going to see the path that we go down with this, but there's a mental fragility when it comes to players between 21 and 26. You can absolutely ruin a player at that age. It's really tough to think about, but it is a real thing. So, Flax, tell us something a little bit more fun.
I was going to say, you gave us the downer, now I'm going to give you an upper, and then we're going to level you out right for this interview.
Love it.
My upper this week, Gage Wood. If you didn't see it, threw a no-hitter in Omaha, the first time in 65 years the Men's College World Series has seen, the first time the Chuck has seen a no-hitter. Could have been a perfect game, but here's what I love the most about Gage Wood. He's still 3 innings shy of what he threw last year. And so in this moment, going into this game, Arkansas has their back against the wall, playing against the Cinderella team in Murray State. It's a must-win game, but it also backs you into a corner from a pitching standpoint. Because not only are you coming out of the loser's bracket, but if you are going to come out of your side of the College World Series bracket, you have to win twice against whoever wins tonight between UCLA and LSU, the night we're recording it. And so you got to have someone who does something special. The writing was on the wall for Gage Wood to go out and have a good outing. This was maybe higher than we expected. This is a guy that's working a 69 strikeout to 7 walk ratio this season in 10 starts. He has the best whiff rate in college baseball on his fastball. Yes, better than Liam Doyle, better than Cade Anderson. He has a phenomenal four seam. He runs it up 96, 97, works it at the top of the zone, has a really, really, really high spin rate curveball. I think today he was spinning it around 2,700 RPMs. Major league average, somewhere between 24, 2,500. So it's spinning so much, and his fastball is spinning so much, that as long as they're coming out of the same tunnel and he's not popping that curveball up out of his hand, it's really hard for hitters to understand or make a decision about what's coming to them. And clearly he showed that today. So phenomenal job by him. Another really cool thing that happened, one of the guys on the Murray State team, actually, they played together in high school. So after the game, he went over, they got to chat a little bit after the game happened, after he celebrated his no-hitter, which he very clearly could have gone his separate way, done his thing. And then his post-game interview. They asked him about his no-hitter, and he only had one thing to say. Shouldn't have hit the guy. So clearly he has high expectations for himself. He very much worked his way into a potential late first-round comp round pick with an outing like that, especially for some teams out there that like to look at the intangibles a little more. A guy that can show up on a big stage with the back against the wall and come out with a little bit of fire and do something like that. So fun to see. Excited to see if Arkansas can go even further and get him another start in the next couple of days, because it'll be working on short rest, and he's probably going to have another one where he'll have his back up against the wall and have to show out.
Yeah, they're going to need him. And over everything else, he was absolutely electric down the stretch those last couple innings. There is nothing more fun than watching a guy who knows he has his stuff, and when he strikes out, the last out of like the last 3 innings was strikeouts. First off, he struck out 19, of course.
Only seven outs were not strikeouts. He had 19 Ks.
So my point being in saying that, though, I understand that. But when you finish innings with strikeouts with that energy, there is nothing more fun than seeing the psychopath come out of these guys. Because I love it, right? You know how I feel about it. And his last pitch of the game, 97 up. And I can only describe it as one thing. You could tell when he got set that he knew he was throwing the ball past the guy. I don't know how to explain that to people who haven't been there and haven't stood on the mound. You knew when he got set, there was a slight breath taken, and he was going to throw the ball past him. Regardless of how many guys he had K'd, different things like that, that was going to be his best fastball of the day. And what was it? His best fastball of the day, 97 up, no hitter in the books. Arkansas's got a chance. Awesome.
Well, it's like I said to you. Every time I throw a fastball and somebody swings through it, I can't believe they didn't hit it. For him, he had the belief every time he threw the fastball that it just wasn't going to get touched. And he was right.
Fine.
That's what he did. But there was high fastballs, and they said it in the first inning. Ben McDonald on the broadcast said, if he's going to do well today, he's going to run that fastball at the top of the zone late in the at-bat and get a lot of swings and misses, because that's what he's done all season. Boy, did he.
Awesome. So we'll see what happens here. Coming down the stretch here for the Men's College World Series. I am very excited to see how it goes. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not on the Coastal Carolina train right now. You know, they got my favorite catcher in all of college baseball by a long shot. So we'll see what happens here. But let's get to the main segment of this, which we're both very excited to share with you here. Without further ado, our interview with University of Hawaii pitching coach Keith Zuniga. All right, we're back. Excited for this one. We've got Keith Zuniga with us, the pitching coach for the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors baseball team. Coach Zuniga, thank you so much for being with us today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, guys. Ryan, Evan, always a pleasure. You know, I've been following you guys for quite some time now, and an honor to be on here with you guys, man. Excited to break it down.
Hey, we're happy to have you. A lot going on right now. We got to start with something that Flax and I were really excited to start with, and you know, you're originally from Daytona Beach, Florida. You've been around the beach for a long time. And the bigger thing we're curious about was surfing a prerequisite for Coach Hill's staff, or did you have to learn when you got there?
You know, it really wasn't. You know, obviously knew that was his background. That's something he's been extremely passionate about for quite some time. You know, and to be honest, we just hit the ground running from the minute we got to Hawaii 2 years ago, man. And the only surfboard I've touched in my 2 years there are the pretty sweet ones he's got decked out in his office, you know, so haven't had much time to get out there, man, but definitely with the amount of times I've been asked, definitely something we need to get into for sure.
I love that, man. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, when we get out there, we'll all learn together. We'll all just get out on the water and just make it happen.
Have to.
Yeah, well, we can do bullpens first, and then we can go hit the surf afterwards. That'll be pretty great.
Good recovery.
There you go.
That's exactly
I'm about it. Listen, we want to give you also a platform and opportunity here. Hawaii baseball is just one of the best destinations in all of college baseball to go play. Tell us a little bit more about playing baseball in Hawaii, the culture that has been built by you, Coach Hill, and the rest of the group out there.
What all obviously starts, with Coach Hill, and obviously, what he's been able to do here at the University of Hawaii. I obviously was able to join him 2 years ago and join the staff and kind of just hop right on, this train, man, that's running with full steam, obviously down in Hawaii. And truly a special place, the culture, the fan base, obviously the location. We're literally, we're on an island, so
Yeah.
it's a tough culture. It's a tough fan base, a tough community, of just some hardworking people, man, that really eat, sleep, breathe Rainbow Warrior athletics, Rainbow Warrior baseball, to be specific, right? That's why we're here. But I mean, just the atmosphere, man. It's as SEC like of an atmosphere that you can possibly get in the West Coast. I think a year ago we were top 3 in attendance in the country, and I think this past year we were number 1 in the West Coast in attendance. And I think we sold out every Saturday night at Les Murakami Stadium. And it's truly just it's as big league of an environment that you're gonna find in the West Coast.
It is so fun to watch those games when I can in the evening online and see the stadium when it's rocking. It is so packed. The way the stands are set up, it looks like the stands are like right on top of the players too. Like, it's just such an atmosphere. You were saying it before, like there are moments late in the game when it's really going, like it's so loud you can't hear what's going on. Like, you really got to know what you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. That's not an atmosphere that a lot of guys get in college. And to be able to provide that, on an island, but also outside of something like the SEC, I feel like is pretty special.
Hey, man, it's home field advantage. These people, from the first pitch of the game to the last out of the game, win or lose, it's a relentless culture and type of fan base that they're going to stick around till the very end. And we, Coach Hill, he talks about it all the time. Like 7, 8, 9 is Bowl Warrior time. So if we're in the game, if it's tight, and it's the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and that Manoa mist starts to creep into the game, and there's a light shower and nothing that's going to ruin your day, right? But it kind of, the magic starts to sink in, man. And I want to say like the first 3 weekends, we had like 5 walk-off wins and whatnot. Yep. And, it's just one of those types of environments where the crowd can kind of really take over and make some cool things happen. It's a good baseball crowd. Nothing like stories you hear about when visiting, some other schools and whatnot, but it's just a good baseball crowd. And it's honestly, it's white noise from the first pitch of the game to the last pitch of the game. That's to awesome. The point where you get back and you're sitting in your car or in the office and you're just like, holy cow, that was nuts. Like literally.
That's a pretty special thing to be a part
awesome
of.
Place to play.
And, there's not many schools out there who can say that this is something that they bring. And as we look at your history and as, if I remember correctly, being the main person on the recruiting trail for Hawaii at the current moment, you guys have brought in some top-level recruiting classes since you've been there, obviously as well prior. But we'd love to know a little bit more. The Hawaii baseball team this year was excellent. The pitching staff was excellent who was under you. Really, what went into recruiting this 2025 class, and how are you guys pushing forward to 2026?
I think the most important thing, is trying to recruit guys that fit well in our system, right? And guys that, are going to buy into the culture we're trying to instill here, right? And it's kind of, it's an ongoing process, right? Because your needs change every single year. The development and obviously, high school players, with obviously the transfer portal, has changed the last couple of years. You play guys too much. They want to test, they want to go and find greener pastures. You don't play somebody enough and maybe they want to find a new home. And that's just kind of, that landscape, it just changes year to year, but I think the biggest thing for us that we look for every year is toughness. You have to be a tough, type of player to be able to come and handle this kind of environment, to be able to be away from family. You'd had to have gone through some sort of hardship in life to come out here and really see, the type of opportunity that the University of Hawaii can offer you, right? And kind of put on your plate and really thrive in this type of environment, right? It's a culture of, again, it's toughness, it's hard work. You're gonna get coached hard, and you're gonna be loved at the end of the day, which is why you can be coached hard, right? So
Right.
when you have the relationships, obviously, with your head coach, your pitching coach, your hitting coach, then you know where they're coming from when they need to be tough on you, right? So that's the type of culture we're all about. And I'll say this, it's not for everybody. It is not for everybody. And, for every 5 kids that may want to find a new home, there's 150 that want to make this their home, if
Right.
that makes sense. So just good baseball players, tough, play hard, disciplined, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, follow the rules, right? Do what you're supposed to be doing. And,
amazing how many
and
kids that's a
everything's
hard
going to
thing
be
for.
just fine, So
Yeah.
that's just the type of culture we're all about. It's toughness, it's discipline, and it's hard work at the end of the day.
Well, you said a word there that I think screams volumes to the way you guys approach this, and it's opportunity. And Rich Hill made the same comment when it came to some guys leaving after this past year to go into the portal, where instead of, obviously sad to lose guys, but his whole thing was, this is an opportunity for us, right? Hawaii is a place where you do have guys that want to come there. It is an opportunity for you to kind of relook at how you build a roster and leverage this as an opportunity to bring different types of players in, really look in different places to bring those guys in. And I'm curious from your perspective, over the last 5, 6, 7 years of being a guy on the recruiting trail, more than that, how much that's really changed from, back in the days at Bethune-Cookman when you were bringing in really good recruiting classes, and then now all the way to Hawaii and how the landscape has changed. How have you changed the way that you approach those things? Have you much, or are you still looking for the same kind of kid, just in different places?
I think we all want the same kind of kid, right? It's always kind of funny when you get a call from a travel ball coach and he's like, "Hey man, I got the perfect fit for you. I got the right kid for you." And it's like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
I want the same guys, I want the same guys you're sending." And some people may think I'm crazy. I want the same guys you're sending Vandy. I want the same guys you're sending to UCF, to South Florida, to FIU, to Miami, right?
Yep.
Or out here on the West Coast, the same type of kid you want to send to USC or UCLA. We feel if you get, if you're in our environment, at Les Murakami Stadium, in our program, that you can go out there and thrive, right? And at the end of the day, you want guys, that are going to work every single day towards becoming a big leaguer. If that's not your goal and you're not going to be about that every single day, then this probably isn't the place for you, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get after it every single day. You want tough baseball players. You want, obviously, guys that project well, guys that aren't scared of the weight room. Most importantly, you want guys that are going to fit your team. And we're always going to do what's best for the team. And every game out here on the island is game 7. It's game 1 of the year. Game 1 of the year, and there's 56 games in the season, and we don't name a Sunday starter. That's because that Sunday guy's going to come in, and we're going to win that Friday night, and we're going to put ourselves in a good position to win Saturday and go win a series. And we'll worry about Sunday.
I love that. I love that attitude. I forget.
That's college baseball. That's playoff baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
The minute you guys get to the playoffs, you see it. Everybody's going on short days rest, on 2 days rest. And that's the type of culture. Anybody who's played for Coach Hill, that's what it's all about. It's about, winning today. And that's what it's going to be. So who we're looking for on the recruiting trail is like, hey man, you're going to come in, you're going to buy into being a part of a team. You're going to be a valuable piece to this, and your role early may not be the role that you want, but you keep pounding, right? You keep pounding, you keep chopping at that tree. Before you know it, you're starting on Saturdays, or you're the Sunday guy, or you become the closer you always wanted to be, right? But going back to the word we mentioned earlier is opportunity. You got to make the most of those opportunities to earn the role that you want.
Yep.
Right?
I remember.
Out. you know.
Yeah. I
Things can
remember
happen.
early in college, my coach, pulled me aside. I was a freshman and I, had gotten to play earlier in the year and wasn't playing in the middle of the year. And he said, you're going to get more opportunities. And we just had a conversation about it. And he goes, but recognize every single day in batting practice, when you're playing out there playing defense in batting practice, that's an opportunity. Every time you're in the weight room, that's an opportunity. Showing that you're the kind of person that has the grit, has the toughness, that is going to just go out there and do what it takes to win a baseball game is a guy that we want on the field. The talent's there. Like if you're here, then we brought you in here because you're talented enough to play at this level. Now you got to get the intangibles that allow you to win at this level. He's like, those are opportunities. Not your at-bats in the game, not the balls that get hit to you in the field, not the innings you throw on the mound in the game, but how good is your bullpen, right? How well are you showing that you can throw strikes when there isn't a hitter in the box? Because if you can't throw strikes when there isn't a hitter in the box, you sure as hell aren't going to do it when a guy gets up there and you got a guy on second with the game on the line, right? So it's really interesting, and you're shaping the minds of 18-year-olds, right? This is a new way of thinking for guys that probably excelled at the high school level without really having a lot of competition around them, just because it's so dispersed and there's so many other kids playing. It is really fascinating, but I love that attitude, and it's very clear in the way that you guys play that comes through, because there is never a game that it feels like you guys are out of it. And then when your back was against the wall most this year, the guys showed out, right? The guys came through against really tough arms, really tough ball clubs in really short rest, getting on and off planes. I mean, like stuff that tons of teams would have turned around and been like, yeah, it was just a really tough stretch for us, and our guys were just a little gassed, and you guys were just like, nope, we're here, we're having a good time, and we got the toughness to just like put our cleats on, put our glove on, and throw the ball around the infield, throw the ball around the outfield, and make a play, right? And I love that. I love that attitude.
And it all starts for us, with Coach Hill. He'll say it. There's times where, Oregon State up and down the roster, right? Like they got all perfect game, all league, all, guys that turned down the draft and ended up on campus and stuff like that. And he'll say it all the time. Like there's going to be plenty of times in the game where there may be more talent in that other dugout, but we're going to win games because we're simply tougher. We are tougher, we're tough. We're a tougher team, and, that specific day we were the tougher team, and that's why we won. Not necessarily the better team, like an analogy we give our boys all the time going into that Sunday where the series is tied, 1-1, and it's a big Sunday for us. We'll say it all the time, sometimes this isn't like there's no shot clock, out here on Sunday. That clock's not going to run out. This is just one of those things where it's a toughness type of deal,
Yeah.
And it's really, in football, in college football, at one point, the University of Alabama, they're going to be more physical. They're faster than you. They could just sit on top of you at the line of scrimmage for 4 quarters, and they're going to beat you because they're just more physical than you. And, that's just how it's going to go in maybe football. But like here in baseball, man, we just show up with the right attitude, the toughness, and win pitches. And then again, we're talking about, the Manoa Magic, right? 7, 8, 9. If we're right there, man. Some crazy stuff.
Warrior innings, baby.
That atmosphere, it'll make an average player good. It'll make a good player great. And it'll make an opponent just shaking their boots, man. And that routine ground ball, the double play they've been turning in between their legs all day, all of a sudden, in 7th, 8th, and 9th, it's not so routine anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So
somebody, I don't know, somebody said this a long time ago, but basically the idea was like nothing's a big deal if everything's a big deal. And you said it before, right? Game 1 of the season is our Game 7, just like the last game of the season is our Game 7. If you make everything mean that much to you, when you get to that point where you are playing last game of the regular season, you either win or go home, it feels like the moment you've been creating for yourself every step of the way, which is it's a hard attitude to get into. But like you said, it seems like that's what Rich Hill really pushes to the guys and kind of embodies day to day.
practices are almost like 18-inning games the way we're going.
I love that.
And it's just nonstop. The base runners are base running. Hitters are swinging. They're getting their cuts off, whether it be in the cages, whether it be off the machine, and it's fake bunt slash hit and run, going first to third on a routine single through the infield. It is chaos, controlled chaos.
Yeah.
For 2.5 hours or however long we're out there. And when guys look at it that way, man, it's like these practices are going to be hard, but when the game shows up, when that time, that's you.
Right.
That's you going out there, you playing. It's so much slower. I swear, some of our inner squads, it's like running through a gauntlet, man. It's like you got to be quick to the plate. You got to be able to pick. You got to be able to hold runners, slide step, right? Like execute pitches, because there's just constant moving going on, and it's awesome. It's something, obviously me as a coach at some other places, had I known this and just seen, the benefits of running practices like this, I would have done this 8 years ago or something, but
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it just makes the game super easy because we're just running through so many different scenarios and situations throughout practice. The game is so much slower. As much as they're trying to speed it up now with the clock and everything, it's still that much slower when you're practicing hard and practicing the right way.
Yeah.
Listen, that level of practice and the effort that it takes prior to getting into game situations allows your players to excel at a level of which they may not have known they could excel at before, right? And it puts them in not only the best situation possible when you come and be part of the Hawaii baseball team, that you leave, no matter what you do, a better baseball player if you're willing to put in the time and the effort to be part of that roster and part of that dugout or part of that bullpen.
At minimum. If you come and you join us for a year and you decide it's not a fit or however, whether you're here for a year or whether you're here for a 4-year career and you come play for the University of Hawaii and come play for Coach Hill, you're going to leave a better baseball player. You're going to leave with some sort of structure, discipline in your life. You're going to leave with some mental toughness. I swear, it's a clinic every day, right? I think when he's done coaching baseball, and he's going to be a Hall of Fame collegiate baseball coach. Let me put that out there.
Oh, yeah. No, I was looking at the numbers.
Anybody who's watching and gets a chance to watch and listen to this, I always try to tell these guys, it's like, hey, man, strike now while the iron's hot. This guy out-energies us. I'm 30. I'm the youngest guy on staff, so I'm like that. I'm that bridge between old school and new school here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he just out-energies everybody on the field every single day. And, he's not going to be doing this forever, right? At some point, every coach, decides to hang it up and go spend time with the grandbaby and family and surf some more maybe in his world. But,
yeah, right.
We know what he'll be doing.
he's going to be somewhere speaking on, mental toughness and sports psychology. He's got an awesome background and a number of different exercises that he goes through with our own players that, some guys feel like, I feel like I'm good in the mental game. I'm locked in when I'm playing and whatnot. Like, that's fine. If you are, you're in a good place. But all the exercises and stuff that our guys are put through will never hurt you, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it can only help you, but it'll never hurt you to just go through some exercises and, try to develop your mental game. And, you're going to leave here a better baseball player. You're going to leave here in a better place right here. And you're going to leave with some toughness.
I think one of the things that is wonderful to hear, and we talk about it a lot on this because as we talk about professional baseball and then we have social medias and the way that people treat situations no matter what, is everything relates back to me to not only on the field but off the field and what we do for a living, right? We go in every day and we do our jobs at the highest level we can and we walk away and we feel how good about ourselves by the effort we put in on a regular basis, just like everybody who walks into their job every single morning. What I love to hear is that at Hawaii baseball, it is 100% treated as a job 100% of the time to go out there and to become better and put in that effort on a daily basis. And to be fair, not everybody has that same level of culture to come in and know that you're not only going to be prepared as a baseball player when you go to school here, but you're going to be prepared as a person when you leave as well.
100%. And there's this, we tell players all the time, like, come play and come to paradise, and but like, make no mistake, like, you're gonna come over here and you're gonna work your tail off. That's what you're going to do. And if you're about the right things and you're about working hard and you're about, if you need to be corrected, you will be corrected. If you're missing class, you're gonna, that'll be taken care of how it's supposed to be taken care of. Like, if you just come out here and you put in the time and you work at it, then yeah, the off days are pretty good when you don't have to worry about assignment or anything like. Yes, it is paradise, but like, first and foremost, you're coming out here to work every single day towards becoming a big leaguer. 109 draft picks at the University of Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
and that's through hard work. Yes, there's a lot of talent, right, involved, but like, those guys work their tails off to make that a reality, if that makes sense. So.
Look at some of the best ones too. They weren't the biggest guys. They weren't the guys who, like, out of the gate you'd be like, he's gonna take off and go be a Hall of Famer. It is the guys that are notable guys that got drafted, played in the big leagues, are those kind of guys that were like the guys you look back at and they're like, that was one of the hardest working big leaguers. That guy worked really hard to get himself here, to stay here. It is really cool to see, and that's more just, the culture, and probably the reason why, 4 years ago, the athletic department probably sat down with Rich Hill and decided, like, he gets it. He gets what he gets what we're about here. He's the same way. He's going to keep the idea of this program going. But I love that he's a D3 guy at heart with Cal Lutheran. And I was explaining to Ryan how crazy it is at the start of his coaching career that he took a team that was very solid at NAIA, and his first 2 years that team became a D3 school took him to the College World Series. There's 300 Division III baseball programs. To be one of the last 8 playing is already hard in and of itself. To take one of them to even be runner-up is so insanely hard, especially at a place like Cal Lutheran, where you are competing in California with so many schools and so many kids that can play baseball in so many different ways and places. It is like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a guy that knows how to coach. This is a guy that knows how to build a program, knows how to build a culture. But you must really enjoy working with him and being in the spot that you're in, I'm sure.
He's a winner. He's a leader. I really think he could go to some middle school girls basketball team right now and turn them into a winner, just in working hard, just in providing structure and putting a practice plan together, and just finding some core values for the team and getting a collective group to come together and go out there and play hard, until the game is over. Simply just going out there and practicing hard and playing hard. And like, you're going to start to get the results, right? Now, when you talk about kind of putting that together with some talent, and some guys that turned down the draft, and you start to kind of blend those two together, some pretty good ball players, which we feel very fortunate to have here on the island, along with good coaching. Some special things can happen, and I think from the minute, again, Coach has been here for 4 years. I just joined him the last 2,
right.
But Coach already had this thing in a pretty good place from the moment I got here, So every day under Coach Hill, under Dave Nakama, under Lindsey Meggs, those are 3 guys in my book that are Hall of Fame type coaches, and they're wizards, at their craft. And sometimes they say so much without saying anything at all. Just in how long they've been around the game, and every day for me personally has been a clinic here.
Let's pivot then to your craft, which is put the ball in your hand and let you get on the mound with your guys, and let's move there. So your team in the 2 years that you've been with the University of Hawaii has been one of 7 schools in all of Division I baseball that have had an ERA or been in the top 10 of ERA over those 2 periods of time. Your pitching philosophy. Tell us a little bit more about how it bleeds into your recruiting, game management, load management. Pitching has really evolved over the last 10 to 15 years. We're relatively similar ages as you are, so we totally kind of lived through a similar time period of watching how pitching has evolved, especially with data and the analytics that go around it. So tell us a little bit more about your pitching philosophy, how you put guys in the right position.
Well, credit, everything that's kind of transpired over the last 2 years. Credit to those guys, right? Just good players. Credit to obviously the coaching staff for putting together a good class. But I mean, good players first and foremost. When those guys are in a groove out there, it's kind of easy. It's easy, on a game day to go out there and call pitches and execute and whatnot. But I mean, for us, it's it's toughness on the mound. You got to want the ball, and you have to attack the strike zone, and you have to be aggressive, and we take a lot of pride in obviously winning counts and 2 of the first 3 for strikes and trying to get guys out in the first 4 pitches and trying to be extremely efficient, right? In the Big West, it's no secret. You rarely will you see a fastball in a fastball hitting count. So being able to pitch backwards, we're going to be relentless. We may have an open bag, and we're not just going to feed you your cookie so you can tee off. So we'll drop 3-2 changeups, full count sliders and whatnot. So it's just guys that can do a number of different things and have multiple ways to get guys out. Obviously, you want swing and miss stuff, right? I think everybody wants that. Everybody wants the 95 to 100, but for us on the pitching staff, we want guys that dominate the weight room. I think a statistic that came out before the season even started, I think we had like 20 guys over 90 miles an hour at the University of Hawaii.
Whoa.
I think 2 years ago, when we were number 1 in the country, we maybe had 3 guys touching 90, to be honest. So it's a bunch of guys that can do a bunch of things in different roles. So you're going to dominate the weight room. Our biggest thing is dominating catch play. Every single one of our practice shirts has that H on the chest, or like Coach Hill likes to call it, a tropical skittle. Pick your color. Pick your color, but you're going for that tropical skittle every single day. I had a guy on our team this year that it was like, okay, powerful arm, high octane arm, extremely talented, but one of every 4 throws on the practice field was clanking up against the fence. So we just started counting every day. Hey, that's 1, 2, 3. So before you know it, the whole pitching staff was doing it. 2, 3, and it wasn't anything it wasn't to make that guy feel bad or anything like that. But we're dominating our catch play every single day. That's what it is. It's target practice. Yeah. It's target practice every single day with all of your pitches, with all of your stuff. Right? So like at the end of the day, our guys, when you're just dominating catch every single day, what's a pick to first? It's another game of catch. What's a PFP? It's another game of catch. When you get on the mound, when the guys that dominate that every single day, as simple of a task as it is of just simply playing catch, those are, our 8 to 10 guys out of a 20-man pitching staff that get the ball the most. It's the guys that know how to take care of the baseball. You know what I'm saying?
It is such a game of inches, and we talk about it in the sense of like close plays, but I've always thought about it, and it was always taught to me of like the microcosms of the game, right? We talked about before, we were talking about, before we started recording, just the idea of like you give to the game and the game gives back to you, sometimes good, sometimes bad. If you treat the game right, if you show up and do the little things right, the microcosms of the game, not playing it, but just the way you carry yourself, the way you approach it, it tends to work its way back to you, right? It tends to give you the opportunity to do those little things when it matters most without having to put a lot of effort in to get them right. And I love when you say, like, this is how I know that your guys' philosophy is just like my brand of baseball. Because when you say we dominate catch play, like that is one of my favorite things when I look at like assessing young players is how do they play catch? Are they paying attention when they're playing catch? Or are they just kind of looping the ball back and forth to each other? Are the infielders trying to work on their hands? Are the outfielders trying to make sure that they are seeing the ball in? Are they going and playing long toss and letting the ball out there a little bit, letting their arms loose a little bit? are pitchers trying to work on stuff, or are they just sitting there chatting with each other? It is really fascinating because, you say it like it's common knowledge. You say it like it's the natural thing to do, but rarely is it actually the natural thing to do, even at the highest levels of college baseball.
Correct. And, you walk into our coach's office and the first thing you see on the left, on the wall to the left is how you do anything is how you do everything. And I mean,
Yep.
that's really the game of baseball, right? Good hitters hit, right? You want to be a good bunter, you're going to work on bunting.
Yep.
You want to have good changeup execution, you're going to work on that changeup. You want to put a fastball where you want it, you got to practice that. You want to be able to pitch inside, which we do. And that's another thing. If you're going to come play at the University of Hawaii, we're going to pitch in. We're not going to walk a lot of people. We may hit some guys, but we're not going to walk people, and we're going to attack, and it's just a mindset for us. The biggest thing, if you're going to come play, if you're going to come pitch for Coach Zuni, everyone calls me Zuni, right? It's not even Coach or anything like that. And in the islands, everyone goes by Coach Keith and whatnot, and they go by first name and Coach Rich, and which is extremely cool, and I'm honored, right? But everyone just calls me Zuni. If you're going to come pitch for us, man, it's a mindset type of deal, and all I'm going to do every single day, we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses and where you need to be better, but I'm going to pump you up every single day, man, on the things you do well, so that when you get up on that mound, it's ultimate confidence in yourself, it's ultimate belief in yourself. You can go out there and throw 7 innings of shutout baseball, and I'm going to treat you the same way I would as if you just gave up 7 in the first and we had to take you out in the second.
And to your credit, your guys pitch with that confidence, and it is blatantly obvious. So credit where it's due to the way you and the rest of the group go out with those athletes on a daily basis, because when we watch your pitching staff go out there, there's just an expectation from your guys on that hill that they're going to dominate the competition. It never looked like this year in 2025 there was a question from any arm you put on the hill that they were going to dominate the people put in front of them. Every single guy on that staff.
Well, I think back to the UCSB series, right? Like, you go into that and the 1 and 2 that you're facing on the other side, and it's not a mental action of like, oh, I wonder what they're. It's like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna go dominate better than they are? And like, you can see, like, your guys went out there and threw a ton of strikes against a good offense that was behind those 2 arms, and it is really evident. I mean, you guys were 6th in the country in walks per 9, right? You guys don't. I mean, that's to be able to be in the zone that much, have that much success, says that you're not just throwing it over the plate, right? That you are sequencing well, you're working around the zone, you're making hitters think, but you're doing it with confidence, right? It's not once in a while where you get a guy who goes out there and just kind of does the thing. It's everybody gets out there, and that's the game plan. And everybody knows that's the game plan. So it's just it's a well-educated effort.
And we talk about it, right? And going into the weekend, they kind of know what they're going to see. They know what to expect, to highlight that specific weekend. I mean, I think it was, probably the most scouts the University of Hawaii has had at a game. We had,
I'm sure,
Takimoto going Friday night versus Bremner, and then
great match.
O'Brien against, maybe Flora.
Yeah, I think it was Flora.
Cooper Walls goes on, freshman pitcher of the year. Cooper Walls goes on a Sunday and does awesome things. But again, it's just I think Sebastian Gonzalez for us, who, is a absolute bulldog on the mound and is a competitor. He might have came in, and maybe I'm wrong, but he might have came in out of the bullpen like on that Friday and piggybacked after Itsuki or something, and then we go out there and we get a win, if that makes sense. It's just, and again, there's no ego. There can't be, and maybe there is, maybe I'm wrong, but like, there just can't be an ego. The objective is to go out there and win the game. And when you're out there and it's successful and it works out, I mean, it's such a good feeling, right? Because you had the right pieces in place, your game plan worked, and you go out there and you just execute the thing. But it's always going to be a next man up type of mentality. Relievers at the University of Hawaii should expect to throw twice on the weekends. But because we crush our routine, we crush our, pre and post recovery, work obviously with our bands and crossover symmetry and along with J bands, everything that we kind of have for our boys. But like, you're dominating those routines to get yourself ready. And you'll know if you're down. You will know, like, okay, after Friday, you threw too many pitches and, we're going to give you a day rest. You'll bounce back on Sunday. But, like, at the end of the day, here, the type of competitors that we have that on 50 pitches rest or 60 pitches rest are like, hey, I'm good. I got an inning for you tomorrow. Like, they just some of our guys in the back end of the bullpen, man, were just absolute bulldogs, and just wanted the ball again. And you don't do what you get to do, these last 2 years, what we've been able to do with guys like that, that just want to do it for the team. It's not so much for themselves or anything like that, but like they literally want to do it for the team. The environment calls for that. It just guys do some pretty cool things, man. You just got to be a competitor and want the ball.
Well, it's fascinating, right? Like a guy that comes to mind is Magdaleno, right? He's a guy when he's a freshman, starts out of the gate, if I'm not mistaken, and then kind of shifts to a bullpen role. And then this year, bullpen role, throws 60 innings in 24 appearances. I would trust putting him in at any stage in any situation, end of a game, tight scenario. His stuff is phenomenal. But, like, you can tell there's zero fear in the way that he throws the ball in the back end of a baseball game, in the biggest spots.
That's a guy who, at the end of last year, could have came in and said, hey, man, you know what? This place wasn't for me. I was last on the, we were number one pitching staff in the country statistically from an ERA standpoint, and I was the last guy. Yeah. From a pitching, that was a guy that could have said, hey, I'm going to do this and this and that. And anybody else would have understood. We knew what we had in Isaiah, right? We knew if he kind of sticks to this plan, goes out there, dominates the summer. Coach Hill said it, like going into this last 2025 season, if we're going to do anything special this year, he said, this guy right here is going to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
And it was Isaiah Magdaleno.
He's got a nasty changeup.
It's ridiculous.
Some
days it just fades like a sinker, like a two-seamer, and then some days it just falls off the table like a 12-6 type, and it's any count. He really developed over the summer too, a 12-6 breaking ball. So it's any pitch, it's any count with Isaiah, and it's surgical with the fastball. You want to go in, it's in. You want to go away, it's away. You need to elevate, it's elevated.
That's awesome.
The guy fouls off 6 changeups in a row, and you just look at him, and we both make eye contact. Just from a pitch calling standpoint, he doesn't even shake. To be honest, he never shakes. He just stares at me for an extra 2 seconds when he wants something else. And then I pop it in there. He gets it. Obviously, the pitch comes. Shout out. That's obviously our preferred tool, from a pitch calling standpoint, but like he never shook. He literally just give me that extra look.
That's awesome.
And the guys who are smart in the bullpen and had just been watching him started to kind of do the same thing. Isaiah got the pitch he wanted. He'd be turning sideways, and he'd just be like ready to go and go. Before I know it, at the end, all the freshman guys pitching, they're all like puppets now. They're all up in there, and it's like being in front of the mirror. Like if you.
That's awesome.
If it walks like a duck, acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice tell these guys, hey man, walk around like a big leaguer every single day. Play catch like a big leaguer every single day. Throw your bullpens like a big leaguer every single day. And before you know it, like you're going to become that. And there's a number of our guys that developed throughout the year. Again, don't want to name drop. Some are still here and are coming back, and some are no longer here. And I just don't want to drop any names or anything. But guys got better throughout the course of the year in just simply knowing how to act, knowing how to play catch, knowing how to practice right, studying the guys who are having success on our staff. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Some of the best coaches are stealing stuff from other coaches and I think that's just kind of the way the game of baseball works. That's why summer ball is such a big part of our development, because you go out in the summer and you're a guy in the Big West and you're out there competing with a guy in the SEC and you're towing it up with him every single day at practice, and you're like, bro, I'm better than this guy.
Uh-huh.
And then you come back with that kind of swag and you're like, hell yeah, like, give me 15 more of those guys, you know? So it's just all about, hey, man, know how to act, you know, and think the right things, and always positive affirmations, positive reinforcement, positive steps in the right direction. Boom, you're an All-American like Isaiah. And I think he went from I told him when he became first team all-conference performer, I went and gave him a hug before the whole thing leaked. I'm like, don't tell anybody, bro. I'm not supposed to even be telling you any of this, but congratulations, you're a first team all Big West performer. And can you believe it? I said a year ago you had the worst ERA on the team. Just jokingly, right? That's the kind of relationship I have with the guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you had the worst ERA on the team last year to the best ERA on the team. Yeah. And our absolute guy in so many games that came down to the end, and I'd be looking at Coach Hill and it's like, hey man, you want me to do something? You want me to get somebody up? And he's like, we're going down with our what up, dog? Just a couple of dogs. There's a couple dogs on the podcast. But
yeah.
It was just like, hey man, we're gonna live and die with this dude out there, and more times than not, it's victory formation, and you know, Bo's giving the shakas to all the fans. We outdrew most teams on the road with our away crowd.
Oh, that doesn't shock me in the least. I'm my favorite thing in the world is the win picks. I love that you guys post the win picture after all the wins. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing you guys do up against your Sunday tradition.
Correct. It's Coach Hill. Coach Hill, that's what he does. There's so many guys that have coached under Coach Hill that have now branched off and coach other programs. And the win picks, magic moments, you see them everywhere, you know. And even those guys will tell you, hey, like when I spent time with Coach Hill as an assistant, yada, 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 everyone's got different examples, right? But that's all Coach Hill. And somewhere, if you zoom in and you sneak in there, you'll find him all the way in the back, you know, peeking an eye in there somewhere. He won't get up there front and center, but he's in there. You just got to zoom in and find him.
It's very obvious that moment is never about him, and the level of respect that I know I have and Evan has for that thought process. You know, one of the things that I look at is many people who listen to this have not had the opportunity to be in what I consider a high-level dugout where you come in every single day and every single person on the roster is driving the vehicle in the exact same direction. And there is something magical about being on a baseball team where every single person is pushing the car in the same direction to get to the same end result. And that's one of the things about baseball as a team sport is the hero does not have to be the guy who hits 4. The hero does not have to be the guy who hits 2. The hero does not have to be the number 1 starter on your team. Every single person who was on that roster that day will have the opportunity to affect the game. And to bring a culture that allows your roster and your group to make everybody feel like the 2-hitter, the 4-hitter, or the number 1 on your staff is not something you find everywhere. And again, kudos to you guys, because the win picks and Coach just sneaking himself in shows those types of things in a very, very small way. We had an opportunity to interview another fellow USA baseball guy, as we know you are, and Jack Wilson, and I wanted to bring up something that he said that I really loved what I heard from you. And he brought up how in the KBO and the MPB and out east, they really develop and prepare guys to throw longer, throw deeper in games, and be ready for what is going to be asked of them. You mentioned that your relievers are expected to potentially throw 2 times in a weekend and want the ball. The preparation that you put your players through, I would assume, allows them to be ready and prepared for those situations.
Correct. You know, all I've ever asked our pitchers, you know, and they may run here more than they've ran anywhere else. You know, it's activation routine, it's your recovery routine, and it gets old to them. Pitchers, bands, do your bands, pitchers, you know, like
I know.
It gets old. And it gets old saying it, right? But like I'm a big believer in like, okay, We just won on Friday. I'm not changing this thing up on Saturday.
No.
And we just won on Saturday, and I'm not changing this thing up, on Sunday. Half of these guys are here because they haven't dominated a routine yet, right? They haven't, sometimes you ask guys, I interview every single pitcher on day one when school starts. We have one-on-one meetings. They all get their own developmental plan. And I'm like, hey, what's your routine look like? Tell me some things you like about your routine. And some guys know exactly what they're looking for, and some guys have no idea where to even start. So all I can do is, win or lose, they have a routine. Okay? They're going to get their bands in, pre and post throw. They're going to get some running in. They're going to be sent to the weight room because we have a little dungeon of a weight. It's a gritty dungeon-like weight room under Les Murakami Stadium.
I love that.
Okay? It's not the brand new state-of-the-art $1.6 million weight room that we have within 200 feet of the stadium. This is just an old little dungeon-like weight room where we go let off some steam. Just dominate recruiting calls and knock out bicep curls or something like that. Right?
That's why your arms are so big. We know.
Correct. So that's what that's where the guys go. They just threw in an inner squad. Sometimes it's not even, hey, go run. It's go hit the weights. Or I'll just tell them, you trick them into working hard. Hey, you got two options. Okay? Here's a stopwatch. You're going to go for 20, 25 minutes. Or you can go get in the weight room right now and you crush a lift for 30, 45 minutes during BP. Which one do you want to do?
I take the latter.
I'd rather go lift. I'd rather go lift. And I'm always like, I'm going to check in on you. I'm going to walk back there. And that's the type of player we have at the University of Hawaii. Okay? Every time I've gone back there, they're drenched in a full sweat, lifting, getting after it. Got their own little music going. And then before I know it, they're walking back out there to BP with their water bottle and whatnot. But that's all we've ever tried to provide for these guys is a routine. And shutout, no hitter, lose by 10, win by 10, that routine will not change.
Where did you obviously the philosophy at Hawaii is very clear, but you've been pretty successful in your coaching career really since you stepped into it. Is there somebody from your playing days that you remember from a coaching perspective that kind of set you on the mentality and the path, or do you feel like you've just kind of always thought this way, been this way?
Well, in regards to just structure and discipline, I grew up in a Marine's house, so.
That'll do it.
Yeah, my dad was a Marine, in 25 plus years in law enforcement, retires from law enforcement, and then hops over to work with the county attorney, and he's still doing that, he's a detective there to this day. So,
wow,
that's kind of where that comes from, right? But from a pitching standpoint, just some great mentors, at the junior college, Jason Heisey, who I think was an All-American at the University of Arizona. He was our head coach. And it was the same type thing there. People told me hundreds of times, I signed with Arizona out of high school, right, for Andy Lopez. Okay, and about, the way this thing goes, the draft didn't work out, too many players, guys we weren't expecting to lose, yada, yada. So I get it now as a coach. Then as a player, I didn't quite understand it, but I get it now. Okay, so I end up at Pima Community College, 2 minutes down the road from Arizona to play for Jason Heisey. And then I end up with Lindsey Meggs, at the University of Washington, okay, who the practice plan is 45 hours in advance, that thing is posted. Everything is boom, 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 boom. With Coach Meggs, the structure, the discipline, hard work, the game of baseball, learned so much there. Ended up redshirting there, and then ended up at Bethune-Cookman University to play for Jason Beverlin, who's really, he's been the key figure in getting me into coaching. Okay, so I get drafted, unique draft story, I guess. I go from pitching 0 innings at the University of Washington to throwing 100, become a Friday guy at Bethune-Cookman University. And in my first year there, I think throw 100 innings, and we win a conference championship. We end up in a game in Coral Gables regional with Texas Tech, Columbia, and Miami. And our whole starting rotation gets drafted after that regional. So we all got everybody got picked up. Okay,
There's a
I
big
was the
leaguer on
last
that
one to
roster,
get picked up. It was a 40 round draft. I got picked up in the 35th. And I wasn't done with school. So you think I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, but I'm actually from Nogales, Arizona, and proud to be from Nogales, Arizona. That's a small border town. I'm talking see the border from your house. Small, just a Mexican kid who ends
That's
up
south.
in Daytona Beach, Florida. That's down south, 45 minutes south of Tucson.
Is that near Sierra Vista?
Yeah.
Like where Fort
Vista
Huachuca's
goes
down
in
there.
a different direction,
Okay.
but yes, close.
Okay,
Comparable.
yeah. I've been down there.
So, yep. So I end up at Bethune-Cookman, get drafted, and it's literally, hey man, sign for $10,000 and hop on a plane and go start your pro journey, or here's a full scholarship, basically come back and pitch your senior year. And like me as a college, that's why team is so important to me, because I had that choice
Yeah.
of going and starting a pro career and staying, right? And staying in college and playing with a team, which I knew every year a team is going to be different, right? But I knew we lost our
Right.
Friday guy or our Saturday, our other two guys in the rotation. I knew we lost some key position players, and I just wanted to get back in that locker room and go dogpile again, pitch in a regional.
Yeah.
Little did I know that wasn't it didn't happen my senior year. I had the same type of year, I would say, as I did my junior year, but now I'm just another year older.
Yeah.
My redshirt senior, and immediately began my coaching career under Jason Beverlin, who's now he just became the pitching coach at Georgia Southern. He was the pitching coach at Coastal Carolina for the
Okay.
last couple of years.
Oh wow.
So he's now the pitching coach at Georgia Southern, and I mean we speak daily, really. But
That's awesome.
so he got me into coaching, and again, a lot of the credit goes to him and the people I've kind of learned from along the way. Jonathan Hernandez, who became, I was just the assistant at Bethune. That Bev got me, he got me a foot in the door. And then Jonathan Hernandez became the head coach after a successful career in the JC route down in the Miami area. And he just took Bethune-Cookman to a regional, and he's one of my best friends to this day, So I ended up taking a job at New Mexico State because it was, me and my wife had just had our firstborn, Peyton. And, driving, it was a 26-hour drive from Daytona Beach, Florida to Nogales, Arizona was a 26-hour drive, which we made multiple times because, hey, man, we got dogs in our family, okay? So
Oh yeah.
no dog left behind, bro. So we
Love that.
throw the dogs in the car for Christmas break and drive across country for the holidays. But along the way, we'd always drive by Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I ended up, becoming the pitching coach in Las Cruces for 3 seasons. And then ended up here under Rich Hill.
How-
So you
Go ahead.
Flex.
No, go ahead.
There was some interesting times too at New Mexico State, and one of them came in your final year there, where you were running the show a little bit there. If we read some things correctly as
Correct.
the interim head coach in that last year, what was it like to get to not only uphold some portion of culture, but instill your culture for almost a full season at a D1 college program?
It was super cool, and obviously, the events that occurred, I took that job under Mike Kirby, who's an awesome baseball mind and really changed my life and changed my family's life, with the opportunity. So obviously, seeing him go, we had just made it to a regional. People, I think have a hard time understanding sometimes. We had just made it to a regional. Okay, and that next year we didn't get off to a very hot start. I think we were 0-7, and admin felt some changes needed to be made. So it was awesome to kind of, everybody always talks about and dreams about, well, when I become a head coach, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and say they're going to do a bunch of different things. And, you get to experience that a little bit, and now, you're the pitching guy having the tough conversations with the guy who's not in the lineup every single day as a position player.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a bunch of different things, and a lot of things really that have nothing to do with the baseball field. So I learned a lot. I grew a lot, and a lot of what's helped me become the coach I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today without that opportunity, I believe. So it was cool to get to experience it. And people ask me all the time if those are my goals and my aspirations, to be a head coach again and whatnot. And you know what? Sure, when the time is right. But right now, I mean, really, I'm just trying to be where my feet are every single day, man. I got a Hawaiian term actually tatted on my shin, year one there. And it's manawa, right? And it's just, now is the moment of power, right? Be where your feet are. So, that's literally, I told my wife, hey, we're not moving to the island to just jump ship and look for jobs and try to become a head coach. And when that time comes. But I'm enjoying being under Rich Hill and Coach Nakama and learning from these guys every single day. So when that opportunity comes again, we will be ready for that thing, and we will crush that.
Zuni, I would tell you that from the conversations we're having right now, it's very obvious that even at the time, the young age of 31, you had no problem having those conversations. And that's something that's really impressive for us to get to just hear in the way you speak about it. So kudos to you for the way that you hold yourself on a daily basis. And everybody who gets the opportunity to play with and under you, not only under Coach Hill, is going to find themselves better from an overall standpoint. I did want to bring it back to your playing career here really quick.
Yep.
And, you talked about the willingness to throw inside. Okay. And if I remember correctly, just throwing it out there, you did not mind throwing in on guys in any way, shape, or form. And I might only know that because we might have looked at your production stats. And I believe that year you mentioned it, Bethune-Cookman, that first one where the team went to a regional, you might have hit 20 guys. Did you know that you hit 20 guys that year?
How many did I walk in my career?
You had the best whip on the team. Don't you worry. If I remember correctly, I don't know the walk number because Baseball Reference is down right now, but you did lead the team in whip, I believe, both seasons you threw at Bethune-Cookman.
People don't believe me, but I think I walked in.
You walked more. Yeah, you walked less than you hit.
That's
in 4 years?
You hit.
Yeah, in the 2 years at Bethune-Cookman, you walked less guys than you hit.
There you go.
So listen, coach,
and I was a sinker guy, and
there you go.
Sometimes I just knew it. I'd look over to the third baseman or I'd look over to the shortstop, and it was like, hey man, this guy's on base. I'm either gonna pick him off or you're about to get a ground ball double play. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way at all. But, just growing up as a kid in Little League, man, my dad, he's going to laugh when he sees this, right? But, ruthless. You talk about put it in between his numbers. That guy, hey, he went 3 for 4 off you last time. We're going to put one in between his numbers. And then we're going to go shake his hand at first base and play the sorry game, right? Play the sportsmanship. And
Yeah.
I have good sportsmanship and take off my hat and whatnot. But, my dad called that pitch. We were pitching inside.
Amazing.
And that's just how it was going to be. So to this day, my dad's watching our college games. He's like, hey, man, that guy tore you guys up pretty good. Are you going to try to get in on him this weekend and whatnot? My dad, after every game, he's got 5 minutes. I tell my mom, hey, he's got 5-minute media. Because my mom's like, leave him alone. Stop asking questions, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, he's got 5 minutes to ask whatever about the game that he wants and whatever, and we'll break it down.
I love that.
But I believe, again, and that's just who I was, and that's how, Jason Beverlin was calling all my pitches, and this guy's a former big leaguer, okay? Big leaguer. Pitched in the big leagues, went and pitched professionally in Japan. That's what he did, right? And
Yeah, wow.
I think my first 2 starts, like any other college kid, I shook a bunch of times. And I shook, and I shook, and I shook, and the first game we won, first game of the year we won, and he didn't mention anything about shaking. And then the second game of the year we win, and he didn't mention anything about shaking. And he's the right kind of leader, right? He waited for me to fail. My third start, I got roughed up. I'm in the outfield the next day. And he just walks over, and we start talking. And he just has a normal conversation with me about, And this guy prior to Bethune-Cookman was a pitching coach in the SEC at Tennessee and at Georgia Southern, right? So, like, he's just having a conversation with me. He's like, hey, man, the amount of baseball I've been around, the amount of scouting reports we do, we watch guys, we watch swings. And, he just basically had a conversation with me about shaking. He didn't say not to or anything like that, but I could read the room and knew how important it was to him that I never shook the man again. Never again.
He fixed that pretty quick.
And we pitched in, we moved the ball away, whatever. It was, it just, and it makes the game that much easier for you when you just put the trust in, right? Because we don't want you out there thinking. We want you out there dominating and executing this pitch. We don't want you getting ahead and saying, I want to do this and I want to do this and I'm going to put them away with this. How about let's just win this pitch right here? That's it.
Yep.
And we'll worry about the rest. We talk about worrying about Sunday. Let's worry about strike 3 and putting you can't punch guys out without getting the 2 strikes.
Absolutely. Can't strike them out in a no count.
Did I just blow your mind? Like that?
This is my favorite. I say stuff like this all the time, like to our men's league team, where like my favorite is when guys like lose track of where the bases are on the field. I'm like, guys, bases haven't moved in 175 years. Like, turn your head around, know where you are on the baseball field. Let's have some spatial awareness. And it's like, it's hard, right? Like, guys who don't play up to a certain point or who don't play within, like Ryan was saying, like a dugout of guys who are there with a purpose all the time. You don't learn those types of things. That isn't common sense. That isn't a fundamental of the game. But when you do it a lot and you are, you have a good mentor and somebody who knows how to talk through those things correctly, you start to recognize how much more ownership you can take in the game, how much more ownership you can take play to play, pitch to pitch. It's crazy how that changes.
Literally. And I had a buddy, if you just treat it that way, right? Like, it could just simplify the whole deal for you. I had a friend who, we were on the road here at the University of Hawaii, and we went and played at it. How was it? We went and played somewhere on the road, and again, not name dropping, no nothing. But it was a good environment, a tough environment to play in. We win on a Friday night. I don't think any, in the Big West, it's like, ooh, they're going against number 1 Santa Barbara in the Big West. And a week later, the polls have changed, and now Paulie's in first place. And a week later, it's like the Bulls facing number 1 Fullerton, who got hot, and they're number 1 in the Big West. So, like, every week in the Big West is important. But, like, this specific conversation was like, man, like, wow, that was a big weekend. How was that environment? Like, what was it like walking into that place and blah, blah, blah. And it was, to your credit, how you just answered. I'm like, well, he was looking for, like, well, the crowd was this and the facilities and this. I'm like, well, the bases were still 90 feet.
Yeah.
The mound was still 60 feet, 6 inches, and he didn't text me back that night. So, like, I think he took it like, oh, damn, like, I caught Zuni in a bad mood. I'm like, no, I was just trying to keep it simple. Like, we just won when nobody thought we were supposed to win.
Right.
Nobody had us winning, and all the picks, whatever, when the staff picks and whatnot, like, and we just did, but it was just another, this game's already over. We still got to show up tomorrow and do this thing again.
Right.
But it was that. 60 feet, 6 inches. I'll tell you what, Coach Meggs had the easier walk today. He just had to leave the dugout and go to the first base. We were on the first base side. So that's how different the environment. Coach Hill had the long walk today.
That's what we used to. That's what we used to do. Well, that's what we used to do because I was an outfielder, and we would judge whether or not we liked a field, good or bad, like just based on whether or not we were first base side or third base side, and whether I had to run short run to right field or I had to run all the way out to right field. That was the only thing I cared about at the fields we played at. Like, it's a stadium's a stadium. Still standing 60 feet 6 inches away from the pitcher, trying to hit whatever he throws.
100%.
Yeah.
So, one, thank you so much again. This has been a great time, and we've appreciated learning more about your philosophy and what you guys are looking for right now, even at Hawaii Baseball, as we look towards the 2026 season. We do like to leave all of our guests with a stat here, and we'll see how you do. I think
little
you'll
trivia.
do pretty well.
All good.
But here's your trivia stat. So, Hawaii led the Big West and was 6th in the country in walks per 9, something that is near and dear to your heart and your career. Oh, go ahead, Flax.
No. You're good. Keep going.
Near and dear to your heart.
Go Bulls.
Sorry, am I reading the wrong?
There it
I'm
is.
reading the wrong one. There we go. Thank you. Every once in a while, we don't have our stat guy here to correct me. So, in
get away with
2024,
that
the
one.
Rainbow Warriors averaged 8.6 hits per game, the lowest number for any pitching staff at University of Hawaii since what year?
$1985.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, you were in the right century. That's always good. 1992.
92.
Wow,
Yeah,
yes.
we you know what? So we gave you a reasonable trivia question. Not that it was easy, but we gave Jack Wilson a trivia question. We asked him who was the last Pirate to have more triples than home runs, or who was the first Pirate or something like that to have more triples than home runs in a single season. And it was some guy from like
1912.
no, yeah, it was like very, very old. And he just goes, you asked me a pre-Titanic era question. Why was I supposed to know that? I was like, yeah, okay.
In which he probably feels a lot older than us. He was like, dude, I wasn't even born when
Yeah.
that guy, like, I don't think my dad was born, like his dad wasn't even born.
I don't think
before
any
that.
of our dads were born before that guy.
We found
but,
we found something a little bit more reasonable for you, but also, you probably, those aren't things that matter, right? Like, you do the thing, it's great that it happened, but it's for stats people like us to care about.
Well, it's so funny because it's like for the first time since 1992 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, and how many were we away from just breaking the school record? And they're like, oh,
Yeah, right.
And in my head, instantly, I remember 3 guys that we should have punched out, and I made the wrong pitch call. And because that happens, right? Hey, hand up. And I'll tell the guys, like, hey, man, you execute the pitch. It didn't work out for us. I'm going to, hey, I will tell you, like, hey, right here. You find me in the dugout, and I will tell, hey, right here. Like, that's on me. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's funny how
Love that.
you just never forget those little things. But, hey, we're all for it. I always try to pump the pitching staff up every single time. It's like, hey, you guys did that. You guys, for the first time since yada, 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 this is what you did. And you guys are one of 8 teams in the last 2 years to, again, constantly reminding people, like, of the good they're doing and what they're capable of, and just keep trusting the process. And trust. You have as much say in your development here as I do. And when it's a collaborative effort that way, we're going to do some pretty cool things.
My friends tell me I'm like this sometimes, but are you the kind of person that, like, you could probably run back a good bit of the sequences that you ran for like a good portion of the at-bats all season, or is it just kind of momentary things when, like, you remember more of the makes than misses, stuff like that?
Hey, man, I think we won last year, for example. We were 37 wins and 3 shy of 40.
Yeah.
And I just remember exactly which games, which moments we dropped that we should have, we should have had 40 wins. And same this year.
That's
Friday at home against Bakersfield, the Saturday at UC Riverside. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll never forget them.
For
If
sure.
you ask Coach Hill, if you ask anybody, they'll never forget. For me, it's just those simple ones of having a record-breaking year for the state of Hawaii, for the University of Hawaii,
Yeah.
right? For our boys to experience something special. Coach Hill's had plenty of these moments where you're in Omaha if you just, push the right button,
Right.
So, like, and we always talk about these things. And funny you mentioned Cal Lutheran earlier. He'll bring out a story that happened at Cal Lu and till this day uses all those examples and analogies and how, the world views winners different than it does losers, right? And when you're about the right things and practice the right things and you come out on top, I think any competitor, any coach, like anybody who wants to be the best at what they do, you'll remember those little moments.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Coach, before we let you go, we want to give you the opportunity for any of the people who are out there who are looking to become part of the Hawaii baseball program or have aspirations to potentially be part of your, roster here moving forward. Give them a good idea one more time of what it takes to be part of the University of Hawaii baseball team.
If you want to be a part of a culture, right? We're the big league team on the island, right? So if you want to come play for a big league crowd, if you want to be a part of a culture, if you want to be a part of a team, and you want to be about the right things, this is a great place to come to school, receive a beautiful education. I think 63rd ranked, university in the country. I don't know how many schools they are. I don't know who came up with that statistic, but it's out there. It's true. 43rd most ranked, diverse university in the country. So you're going to run into people from all parts of the world, right? All trying to come and receive an education like you are and become professional in their given, in their area, their sport. So a bunch of people from a bunch of different walks of life, but you're coming in, to be a part of the best fan base, what we believe in the West Coast, to work hard. Again, you want to play professional baseball. That opportunity is available here with all of our, our facilities, our resources. Again, the environment that you're around every single day. And again, it just takes toughness, and all of that can be achieved here. And we want people at the end of the day that want to be in Hawaii. You got to want to be here. We shouldn't have to beg you to give us a chance. And right now, you see it all over my socials. You see it on social media. We have to bring Hawaii to you. You can't drive by the University of Hawaii and take an unofficial visit like most can, like the university nearest, the house you grew up in.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The biggest thing for us, we're all over social media. Some of it's repetitive, some of it's nonstop, it's relentless, it's every single day. But we need to bring the University of Hawaii to you. So if that's a culture, if that's a community, if that's an environment that you want to play in, Coach Prime says it all the time. I'm not hard to find, so exactly, where to find me. And again,
I love that.
Hey man, I'm just like all you guys on the recruiting trail, right? I listen to the same music you listen to. I wear the same shoes you wear. I like the same clothes you wear. So at the end of the day, I'm just somebody who wants to get after it, for the University of Hawaii and a coaching staff that all feels the same way. And reach out to us.
Hell yeah.
We love it. Coach Zuniga, thank you so much again for taking some time to sit down with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will continue to be heavy supporters of Rainbow Warrior Baseball moving forward. Again, for anybody who is interested, make sure you reach out. So thank you so much, Coach Zuniga. We appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me. Go Bows.
Go Bows.
All right, there it is. Coach Zuniga, thank you so much again for spending some time with us, letting us learn a little bit more about you, the Hawaii baseball program, the coaching staff, and what it takes to be a Rainbow Warrior. We wish you the absolute best of luck here during the recruiting season and, of course, moving into the 2026 college baseball season.
I decided that there's two things I really learned from the interview is that, first of all, you have to earn the right to get to play in Paradise. The way that they carry themselves, the way that they approach the game, they approach their program. Just because you're in Paradise doesn't mean you get to slack off and hang out. It is an effort. It is a level of effort and a level of toughness that they require to be a part of that program. And I also decided that after talking to Zuni that if their school was in the middle of South Dakota and they only got to play their games in the winter, I would want to play for that program.
Yeah. 4 years of eligibility. Just saying. That's pipe dream. But either way, thank you again. We appreciate it. Flax,
It's very small.
Let's get to the final topic here, and that was a fun little conversation that we had talking about why, or I guess why not, Johan Santana should be a Hall of Famer. And this has been a fun one for especially people right around our age. Yeah, I turned 30 this weekend. Flax is already there, but the point being is we got to see Johan Santana in this pocket is the best way for me to put it. Of like, we already were far enough along in our baseball careers from an amateur perspective to like realize what he was doing, especially somebody like me who got to watch him against my NL East team. I'm a big proponent of the fact that Johan not being in the Hall of Fame is a bunch of bull hunky. But I'd love to hear your thoughts here before I run.
It's hard because when you look at the numbers, I think he's like shy of rounding out the numbers that get you over the hump. But when it's all said and done, if you're the kind of guy that's going to throw a no-hitter on 134 pitches, win 2 Cy Youngs, and could have had a case to win 3, it's hard for me to sit here and say, like, you weren't one of the most dominant of your era. This is where you say, like, we need players of your era to be a part of the voting, because there's no way hitters that faced him in his era would have possibly said he wasn't the best they faced. And to me, that's what the Hall of Fame should be, is the best of their era. Players that when other players talked about them said, I didn't want to have to go against him. Every 5th day in the division or whatever, every series in the division when you had to face the guy, you were chalking up to at least an opportunity to lose.
Or you were hoping that he just wasn't one of the 3 to 4 guys throwing against you.
Right.
Series. Like,
right.
You hoped you missed him. That says a lot. And look, for any of you who don't totally recognize it, Santana had an under 3 ERA 5 different times throughout his career. Again, won 2 Cy Youngs. He led the league in WHIP 4 different times. He led the league in strikeouts 3 different times. He led the league in ERA 3 different times. He also had the highest WAR in all of baseball in 3 straight seasons for a pitcher. So, Johan Santana's prime was an absolute masterpiece just about every time he stepped on the hill. And I hope people have the opportunity to go back and watch some of what he did. And I'm not talking about watching that one highlight tape that just shows the one pitch he threw to strike out. I don't know. Take your pick. Adam Dunn. I'll go with the National. I'm sure Dunn got him once or twice. But my point being here is very simple. Like, when you go back and watch a Johan Santana start from anywhere between 2004 to 2010, there was a very high likelihood the opposing team was somewhere around 4 to 5 hits. He was going to strike out 7 to 11 guys. The ball was going to be put in play very softly on a regular basis. He dominated hitters throughout that time period. And the other problem that we face here is from a production standpoint, he had a 64% win percentage. But due to his time period and the teams that he was on, he still only won, quote-unquote, 139 games. And he was in Hall of Fame voting during a period of time where, for whatever reason, we cared about wins. And I just struggle to understand that, especially as an analytical guy, because you don't get to dictate a win. It's just not how it works.
No,
my guy on the show
especially in his case.
He's thrown 2 7-inning no-hitters and gotten pulled, and we've lost both of those games. Baseball.
Johan Santana had 143 no decisions.
Eesh.
Right? Adam Dunn faced him 10 times.
Oh, give me a nuke.
Went 4 for 10 with 2 bombs, 4 walks, 3 Ks. So the fact that Adam Dunn put the ball in play 3 times and it was not successful off Johan, I'm going to assume they were rollover ground balls to the second baseman or foul ball pop-ups.
I don't know how I've put us on the topic of Adam Dunn against Johan Santana. I love that I did, because it is very fitting that it was just like, yeah, he basically either hit a bomb or did 0.
Right. Yeah.
That's a very Adam Dunn line. We like that.
1571 OPS against Johan Santana in 10 at-bats.
Yeah, we could also talk about Adam Dunn's WAR if we wanted to right now, but I don't think that's a discussion for right now.
No, people don't want to hear that.
What about defense?
I don't want to have that conversation.
We're not gonna run you guys down that
DH defense,
that avenue here. Either way, we hope you guys enjoyed the interview. We hope you guys enjoyed the commentary early and after. Past that, as always, like, follow, subscribe. We're here every single Tuesday to put some baseball in your ears. We hopefully have some nice interviews coming down the pipeline, so get excited if you enjoyed this one. Know there's more coming. But past that, we're going to give you baseball content every Tuesday and also every Sunday on our live streams, which is normally anywhere between 8 to 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So come join us. Come hang out with us. But past that, unless Flax has got anything.
Go follow Jackson. He does really good work for us. Go follow Jackson. Jackson Scudder. Search that name. Find him on Twitter. You'll find him through a lot of our Twitter stuff, our Scudder Report every Monday. Go follow Jackson. He does great stuff.
And he will be back next week to roast us about all the things that apparently only I'm doing wrong.
Was that, I was going to say, was that a royal us, or was that you just lumping me in there?
Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful week.